afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to the cutest pod in flesh and blood. Welcome back to the Pitch Perfect podcast. Of course, my name is Kiki, and of course we have Elaine.
Hello.
And today, we are joined by a good friend of the channel, somebody you may or may not have seen, probably may have. We have Tommy from Fresh and Buds. Tommy is a Flesh and Blood podcast, obviously, but also is a lover of all things large, grotesque, and slightly off-meta. We are looking at Riptide and Leviathan players. This one's for you. So, Tommy, hello. Welcome. Say a little bit about yourself, please.
Well, first of all, thank you. I'm happy to be here. Very excited. Yes, you are correct. I do podcasts, and I also love all things large, grotesque, and slightly off-meta, although in my mind it is the top of the meta. And I'm just happy to be here. I love content, I love podcasts, I love chats, I love good buds, and I think that's what we have right now, which is very exciting.
For sure, it's definitely what we have here. We've been a guest on your channel now, Elaine multiple times, myself once, and we love chatting to you, so we're very excited to have you on.
And Thank you. I'm excited. I love chatting with you guys. This is going to be awesome. Now I don't actually have to,
perfect.
Ask the questions. I just get to sit here and answer them.
For sure. We're going to switch roles. We're going to see how well you do. But before we begin with the discussion portion of it... Before we begin...
Yeah, well, you do at answering your questions. Okay. I think what Kiki is trying to say is that before we begin with discussions and testing you, we're going to talk a little bit about our weeks in Fab, like we always do every single episode. So just kind of like, what have you been up to in Flesh and Blood this week?
Would you like to start us off, Tom?
Yeah, I would love to start off. It was a good week because I did make it to Armory on Sunday at shout out Koros War Games, Flemington, New Jersey. Nice little store. They get a nice little crowd. It was a good time. We played. It was sealed, but they're out of hunted like most places are right now, unfortunately. Yeah. So for whatever reason, we chose MST. I guess our only other option was Bright Lights or Uprising. I think I would have. I don't really care either way, I think. But MST ended up being fun because I opened a Cosmic Awakening. So I was like,
ooh.
Oh, this is something I've never done. I've heard of it. I know this card. And in all my adventures playing MST limited, it's always been Zen. I just forced Zen. I was like, I didn't have a lot of time to practice because that was the Nats format, and I didn't get a single draft in before Nats. So I was like, all right, zoom, Zen it is. I'm not even going to look at New or Enigma. And it ended up being okay. I think overall for the weekend, I went 3-3 for it. This is not bad. I'll take it. So sitting down, I'm like, I'm not going to force Zen. I'm looking. I got a pretty good new pool. I also had the spec. What is the name of the spec?
The Sacred Art.
Yeah, the Sacred Art. So I was like, okay, this is cool. I got the Cosmic Awakening. I got the Sacred Art. I'll play. First round, opponent. There wasn't a lot of us there, so we're all sitting next to each other, and the opponent's like got me on the ropes, and I pitch stacked something. It was crazy, and it was the new mirror, and they pitched to activate new and looked at the top. I knew I had a red right on top of my 3 Chi and the Cosmic, no, I had the Cosmic in Arsenal. I knew I had a red on top of the 3 Chi. My opponent looks, says, "Oh, you gotta leave it there." I'm like, oh, yes. Draw it, and I had no cards left in the deck. I was like, here's 20, and he's like, oh man, and I won. And then everybody else at the table was like, well, we know what to prepare for when we play you the next 2 rounds, which I promptly lost. So that was cool. That was my week of Flesh and Blood. So what about you all?
Was that, real quick, I have a question. Was that your first time outside of Nationals weekend drafting Mistveil?
Well, that was sealed actually, but
Oh, it's sealed, yeah.
But I think the only other time I played sealed MST was, or I played like one side event at Nats on the Sunday, and then I played the pre-release, and that was it. And then that feels like ages ago. So
this is a long time ago.
yeah,
Almost a year ago, I think.
yeah, we're getting close. Yeah,
Yeah, that's crazy. Wow.
I mean, Nationals is like a little bit earlier this year, but like close enough, you know.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. I even posted about it on Bluesky. I was like, I understand you sickos who like the Cosmic Awakening line. It feels good, like, but I forget who commented on it. Was like, it's a drug, and I was like, my body's a temple, I can't. No. So it was it was fun. It was a good week in Fab.
Awesome.
That's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Absolutely, I love that. Just the being able to pull it off for the full 20 when you have no cards in deck, knowing that you put the red card on top. How conscious were you thinking about your opponent potentially removing that? So you're like, I'm gonna put a red on top of this to protect my 3 chi. Like, was that a conscious decision?
Well, yes and no. It was more of the defense reaction. I forget what the name of it was. The 0 for 3 red.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was more of like, oh, when I see this, if I see this, I know that the cheese are coming later. I didn't really think about, oh, I'm actually protecting those cheese. And then it ended up being the case, which was nice. I'm not that good. So, it was more like, oh, I know this card. The good things are happening. So it all worked out.
How beautiful.
Yeah, I love that.
That is a significantly more interesting story than mine is. Mainly because my Flesh and Blood experience was a week ago, and I can't really remember it other than that I went 2-2 with Prism. So, yeah, not too exciting. Was there anything notable that I can remember? No. I remember me losing. One of them was out of my control. Oh yeah, no, I remember now. It was the turn 0. It was the Prism Mirror. And my opponent was 10 minutes late. And the judge was like, do you want the match? I'm like, no, we'll just play. It's fine. It's Armory. Who cares? And then he proceeded to, like, win the die roll. He's like, I'll pick first. I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. He was like, Arclight Sentinel, go. I'm like, oh. Okay, I see how it is. And then I nearly clawed it back. And he got 2 more Arclight Sentinels. So I ended up losing that game. And under the life totals, like where I do my life totals and stuff, I just wrote me Arclight Sentinel 2, opponent Arclight Sentinel 3. And then as a reminder of that game.
You have a judge at Armory?
Yeah, the staff. Like, we don't have like a proper L1 judge, but
There's
the tournament organizer, the people that work there. If we have like actual judge calls, it's usually either me or one other player. Neither of us again are actually judges, but we know the rules well enough. Do you not have that?
Well, no, like, I guess at the stores, there's a lot of stores that host Flesh and Blood events in where I live, but there's like the only store that I go to now, like our RTO, we just like go say like, hey, you can repair us now, like.
What happens if there's like a judge dispute?
We have like locals that are also judges, so if we have questions, we're just like, hey, I won't say anyone's name, but like, hey, you, question when you have a minute. Like, yeah, it's very informal, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, like, the judge, quote unquote, wasn't a Flesh and Blood player. But it was the judge in the sense that he was the one putting in the result and stuff, and if there is an issue, we call judge, and if he can't fix it, which is more often than not if it's a Flesh and Blood related thing, then we go to someone else. But it's more just like in this case, it was more of a TO role, I guess. Just my opponent wasn't there within 10 minutes, and I think that's a game loss or a match loss, whatever, but it's an Armory, who cares?
Yeah, I would say at Armories, like, if something happens, like, if someone's like, oh, like if they took up their tunic at the end of the turn or something, I'm like, I don't really, like, no one cares. Or like if my deck like falls on the ground in the middle of the game, it's like I'm just gonna pick it up and put it back, you know? Like,
yeah, I'm gonna put it in the exact order I want.
Yeah. I'm gonna look at the cards, I'm gonna stack them how I want, put me like purposely knocking over my deck at the. That's not true, I don't do that.
That's just pitch stacking, right?
Yeah.
That's how you pitch stack?
Yeah.
That's how you end up with 3 cheese and a red on top? Like...
That's what Tommy did to end up with 3 cheese and a red on top.
I didn't even open Cosmic Awakening. I just had that.
I just took it out your binder.
I heard that they were playing MST Seal. I was like, this actually sounds like a cool thing to do. Let me do that. Pitch stacking 101 here at Pitch Perfect.
It's in the name.
It's in the name. It's in the name. It's in the name, yeah.
So, Len, do you have a more interesting story than dying to Arclight Sentinel?
No, I was trying to think. I don't know if I don't. Since the last time we recorded, I don't think I've been to Armory because I had a friend visiting from Spain over the weekend, so I did not sacrifice my time with them to go to Armory. So I guess my Flesh and Blood stuff has been just kind of, we've started a little bit planning for the season 3 of the league. With that, I've kind of finally tied all the loose ends from season 2 of the league, and yeah, editing Scott's episode, which should be out tomorrow. From the time we're recording, not from the time you're listening to this episode.
Which is like 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, so I guess all my Flesh and Blood related stuff has just been on the back end. I bought some cards, if that counts.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Anything cool?
Yeah. No.
Oh, okay.
No, I realized I didn't have Entwine Lightning, so I ordered Entwine Lightning, and then I got Entwine Earth in the mail, and I was like, so I had to, go through that process of getting the right cards. Now, it's a very boring week in Flesh and Blood.
Oh, true, but the Aurora deck is out tomorrow for y'all. Today for me.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago to our viewers.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go swing and pick that up. Maybe I'll go say hi to people at my Armory on Saturday and pick that up, because I really gotta lock myself in my apartment this weekend. I have 3 papers to write, so I don't think I can. Oh, actually, it's skirmish weekend too. Oh my gosh. Maybe I'll go cheer on the skirmish and say hi.
So you're gonna go undefeated at skirmish, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
On a technicality.
You
won't lose any games at skirmish.
No, not this weekend. No,
it's your weekend.
Anyway, that is my boring week in Flesh and Blood, but we have more interesting things to talk about on the podcast, because we have Tommy here. So actually, Tommy, I was thinking about this, and I feel like I've remember meeting you in person in Pro Tour New Jersey, which feels like a lifetime ago at this point. So we've known you. I've known you for quite a while now. Kiki has known you virtually for a while now, but maybe some of our listeners and viewers do not know you like we do. This might be their first time actually experiencing the Tommy Fresh experience. So we just want to learn a little bit about you, why Flesh and Blood. What brought you into this game? Tell us a little bit about your start.
Yeah, well, first of all, I was wearing that sign when we met. I think we have. I have a selfie of us. You were Icelander, and I was game show host on wheels, or not wheels, on a stick. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was like pipes.
It was pipes. It was pipes. It was supposed to look like a stage.
It did.
Yeah. Funny enough about this is a little aside, and I'll talk about why I chose Fat, but I always like telling this story because I was wearing this Fresh and Buds sign at Pro Tour New Jersey. Huge event, people were so excited. First Pro Tour, this is gonna be so cool. And I walk in there, yada yada yada. I'm doing my thing, and the organizer from Channel Fireball walks up and says, "Hey, what's going on?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm a content creator." And he's like, yeah. And they thought I was like trying to sell weed to. No, I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just like, no. And I swear, like, you work for China Fireball. You guys follow me on Twitter. Check it out. I just posted about Flesh and Blood, I swear. So that was fun.
I guess it does say like fresh buds, like in red, you know? Yeah.
In hindsight.
Imagine if your logo was green.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Well, now, a big Riptide player now, and, he's got that green smoke coming out of him. Anyway, I digress. John, I think it was, from Channel Fireball, ended up being really cool about it. But why Flesh and Blood? Well, I'm a long-time card gamer, played Magic mostly my whole card gaming life. Played a little bit of, didn't play Pokemon, but I collected Pokemon as a kid. And in high school, my friends kind of started bringing out the Yu-Gi-Oh decks again, and they were like getting into Yu-Gi-Oh, and I was like, I really do not like Yu-Gi-Oh, so I was looking for anything else because I did like card games. I just did not like Yu-Gi-Oh, and I remember seeing a Magic card and I was like, oh, I love fantasy. This is really cool. So got into Magic around Zendikar M10, I guess. The height of Jund and like Naya and stuff like that. And really got into it, played with my friends, right? The friends from like high school and stuff like that. We went to FNM, and that was just such a cool experience because, you just started meeting, other people, and I like the social aspect. So that's kind of how I fell in love with card gaming. And I kept playing. My friends kind of stopped. They kind of faltered and did adult things, but I always played a little bit. And at one point I did have to like get a job at like that. Well, I already had a job. I had to get a job that like required me to work on Friday nights. So I was like, oh, well, F&M's kind of dead in the water, but I still played like virtually, like, Magic the Gathering online for a while. And then Magic Arena came out. And that was kind of my relationship with Magic for a long time. Just kind of playing virtually. It's just like, I kind of hate that. I don't mind Towstar so much, but like, I really don't like the faceless kind of just jamming games, jamming drafts and stuff like that. And the game was also getting a little weird, right? To me, in terms of the shift towards Commander, which was not something I was really interested in. I had tried getting into it, it wasn't for me. And you start seeing cards that were printed for Commander in the sets and stuff like that. And around that time, that's when I kind of discovered Flesh and Blood. I think through a LSV video on Channel Fireball, because I was a big limited junkie, so I would watch Limited Resources or listen to Limited Resources, another podcast, which was Marshall Sutcliffe and LSV. And I saw that video and I was like, you know what? This kind of sounds like real cards. Like, what's that like? Like playing with actual cards? Like, I remember doing that. That was so much fun. And I was like, okay, let me get the Blitz decks and the Monarch Blitz decks. And that's when I was like, I played all of them against each other, and I really found, and I'm sorry, Kiki, I found my disdain for Prism, because in terms of the balancing of those Blitz decks, Prism wasn't, I don't think, that good, right? Because there were a lot of like poppers and stuff like that, and it was just, and there was no auras going around. So, but I was like, okay, I'm sold on this, and I started playing Chain, actually, although I ended up being a Leviathan stan. Chain was the closest thing to a Magic deck that I could really fathom, like Dredge, and I was like, okay, this is pretty cool, badass Shadow Rune Blade too, and like that was pretty neat, and I just like fell in love with the game loop, and I was like, this is like really, really fun, like a puzzle every turn. That is like the coolest thing about this game. And I do think sometimes I catch myself taking it for granted how awesome that is, because sometimes I'll whatever. I won't play other card games, but if I get bored, I'll check out like a digital card game on my phone, like when work's slow or something like that, just to see what's going on and what other games are doing. I'm like, wow, this is so stagnant to me compared to what Flesh and Blood offers in such a dynamic way, and I don't know. I think it's just awesome, and the way they nail the feel of the game, like God, I feel like Riptide when I play Riptide. I feel like Levi when I play Levi. I feel like Phi when I play Phi. It's just, it all really hits home, and I think LSS does such an incredible job. It's really impressive. So yeah, that's what brought me to Fab. I'm not going anywhere. So I love it.
Yeah, I think you really like hit home with like what makes Flesh and Blood special, and like what keeps, I'm sure, like all of us in the game. Is like just everything is so flavorful and it really draws you in. And I think that a lot of people connect with the game just from like having the hero you really identify with. But I also feel like no matter what hero you pick up, like the mechanics are just like so intentional and flavorful to that class and hero that it draws you in no matter what. So yeah, it's such a good game. I love this game.
I think it's pretty clear that we enjoy this game just a little bit at the bare minimum, right? Just to touch on that like hero thing, like the identifying the hero thing, like even loosely and unintentionally brought it up just before when you're talking about your blood stacks and how you apologize to me for saying that Prism is bad. Like the fact that people can be attributed to specific heroes already in the same way that you with Levia and Riptide or Elaine and Warriors kind of thing. Like, like we all had this sort of identity. We don't obviously play them all the time, but like that identity thing with the heroes and the players, that connection is a real thing that makes this game special.
Yeah, it really is. So. Even like on a local level, right? You go to your armory and, I am someone who has become known for playing Riptide. I think I'm okay at it. And even to have, I'm going to shout out Dan Rakowski right now. Even to have Dan Rakowski go, oh, God, like, you're on Riptide, aren't you? Like, that even is, like, kind of cool. And, like, Dan beats me quite often. So it's not like, I'm terrorizing the armory. Although in my mind I am. I'm like, I'm going to play so many traps. And then they're going to KO me and I'm not going to be able to do anything. But it's cool. It is really cool.
Mm-hmm. The downside in reverse, for example, is I have more people at my locals playing Paupers in their deck because I exist. It's like I'll be playing against Mario's. I have like 6 Paupers. It's like, where did this come from? Why are you doing this? And I'm just gonna put on blast. Kashan's just like, I hate Prism. There we go.
I hate Prism. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, it's entirely his fault that I'm playing Prism too. So there we go. Now you love podcasts. You love the communication, the community aspect of it, bringing people together, chatting like we are now. What do you think makes podcasting a great forum for Flesh and Blood content?
This is a good question. I think podcasts, we're definitely in the very big bubble of podcasts in general on the internet, right? Mm-hmm. I think there's one of the popular podcasts on TikTok right now is just a bunch of like preteens talking about food, and it's like, and they're just like, it's like weird. It's like a bunch of like young boys that are just like, what's your favorite pizza? I don't know. I really like pepperoni. So like that's at the point we're at. Like it's almost like there's an after-school program for podcasting. So but I will say, unique hobbies like Flesh and Blood is such a great way for I think just the consumer of the content. I think we get a lot of benefit too, right? I think that we have a lot of fun talking about the game that we love, But I do think it's nice in a world where it's not the biggest game, right? And you don't always have this kind of opportunity to play it all the time. It's not such a accessible game, and not in a bad way or anything like that, but like it's if you want to play Talishar or whatever, but like you can't play it in its true form all the time. So podcasts to me are what is part of people's routines and their life throughout their week. They go to work, they listen to it on the way to work. If you have a cool job where they just let you listen to your music or whatever during work, you're like, cool, I get to like listen to podcasts and have it like be a part of my mundane things that I have to do, you know, riding the bus, driving to work, taking the, you know, grabbing your bike and going, or even at the gym or something like that. So, or even on the way to armory, to be honest. And I think that's why Flesh and Blood really benefits from having podcasts, because, and it's just like so self-serving. It's like, this is the best content form ever. Can you believe it? No. But it is like really good for that, because I think it kind of fills the gaps in between the enjoyment of the actual game, and you kind of get to listen to people talk about the game, which is so cool. Like, you know, even when we caught up, and you know, not a lot happened in our Flesh and Blood lives this past week, but you're like, oh wow, you know, the Prism Mirror, you know, Arclight Sentinel, oh man, oh, Cosmic Awakening, oh, Tommy was definitely cheating and not pitch stacking, oh man, Elaine's definitely a cheater too, what's going on? I mean, it's just like, it's it's just fun, like, and I think that the fact that there's so many different kinds of podcasts too for the game is also just really neat, right? There's a lot of different holes to fill, right? You know, you have your like super competitive podcast, and then, you know, I'm an interview focused podcast, and you all just really can do the interview and just be silly and have fun, which I love it, and get down and dirty and get really like serious as well, and kind of serve that part of the kind of ecosystem of podcasts. And I think it's just cool. I just love podcasts. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going, but like, you know, I'll just yap, and that's what a podcast is. So
that is true too. I listen to it as someone who has like a 2-hour, like spends like 2 hours on public transportation, and then like 8 hours sitting in a room alone and staring into a microscope. Like, I listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of audiobooks, but like podcasts, like audiobooks are really cool, but sometimes I'll just get, you know, I can only listen to some. I have like audio entertainment for 10 hours a day. That's just the way it is. And so podcasts, like an audiobook, sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm a little bored of this book, like I need something new, and I put on a podcast. Like yesterday I was listening to a podcast in the lab, and I started laughing so loud to myself that I had to like get up and like do a lap to make sure I was alone, because I was like, oh, that's kind of embarrassing, like, yeah, like like someone just heard me like dying laughing while I'm sitting over there like in a corner staring in a microscope. They're like, what's wrong with that girl? But it's true, like podcasts just make you feel so connected, and it's like when I listen to them, I feel like I'm sitting right there too, as if laughing along, as if I'm part of the conversation. So yeah, I totally get it.
it always reminds me of that old meme where there must have been like an ice cream stand or truck or something like that, where everybody's like, all these, like, there's like, you know, there was a picture of a bunch of people like eating their ice cream, and then some guy sat next to it and it was eating the ice cream too in the picture, and it was like, this is what podcasting feels like. You're just like hanging out with your friends that aren't there. They're in your ears, which I just like, it's just, I think the best part about it is just, yeah, you just like get to listen to friends, which is nice. Buds, I should say.
Yeah.
So I have a pretty public job, right? Like, I serve customers, I work retail, etc. So podcasting or listening to podcasts isn't really a thing I can normally do during work hours. I can play music, it's fine, you know, background music, etc. But there was one time where there was nobody in the store and it was real quiet. I'm like, you know what? It feels kind of lonely. I'm just gonna put on a podcast on the TV whilst working, since no one's here anyway. And it was also when we recently started filming, so I actually just put on like the first few episodes of like Elaine and I as the Pitch Perfect podcast hosts, and I put it on, and then like about halfway through somebody came in, so I was serving them, and they were just like, oh, this is a cool podcast. I'm like, oh, thanks. And they're like, yeah, this person sounds like you. I'm like, it is me.
It is me.
And it's like, they just like look up the TV screen. They're like, "Oh, it is you." I felt so embarrassed just playing my own shit.
Hey,
Like,
we take views however
my
we can
job.
get them in this house.
It's like caught listening to your own podcast. That's really funny. Oh.
Just like I'd sit in there and be like, good point. I'd just like, pretty smart there. I don't know.
Laughing along as if you're part of the conversation, but you literally are. Like,
this person is so funny. Like, I can't believe what they're saying. Like, I agree 100%. It's a sort of like kind of weird parasocial relationship with yourself almost, right?
Yeah.
Where you're, like, idolizing yourself. That was just a really weird segue to go into how does having a podcast affect your relationship with the game?
That was quite the segue.
So forced.
That was good. You stuck the landing. It was good. How does having a podcast affect my relationship with the game? I wouldn't go as far to say if I didn't have this podcast, I would be less interested in the game, but it definitely keeps me like my finger on the pulse, as it were. You got to pay attention to stuff. It's hard to pay attention to everything at this point. It's crazy, but it helps me think about the game, and I think it helps me connect with the people that I really like to connect with, and I also think it helps me be a better player, because I should play more or whatever. I should practice. I should at least kind of seem like I know what I'm talking about. Especially when I have who's a good. I had Michael Fang on. I got button up. That's right, Mike. That is exactly what I was thinking. But it does. I don't know. It helps me have a healthy relationship with the game. I've said this before, and golly, I mean, I've been on such a good streak of guests right now. Even in the past 3 weeks, Taylor, my original guest from Attack Action Podcast, one of my favorite people in the world. I get to talk to Bryce from AGE. I get to talk to you, Kiki. I mean, that's just so cool. Life is hard, and it sucks, and you could be working, and it's oh man, I'm so tired. And sometimes you dread the podcast, or I do, I don't dread it, but you're okay, I get the lead up to the podcast. You're okay, I gotta, make sure I do all these things and get my head in the right space. And then once it turns on, I'm having a blast. So it just reminds me how much I love doing the podcast, and I love the game, and I love the people that I get to do it with, So I think it's just a net positive for my relationship with the game to kind of bring it around there.
Yeah, I love podcasting with you, Tommy, because I feel you say maybe dread it in a way, or just feel have to get in a mindset to get up to it. But I've always said, and I think I told Kiki this before they went on your podcast, that Tommy is so fun to podcast with, because you just really take all the stress out of podcasting. It's just it is buds, just two buds hanging out is always what it feels like. Yeah,
I appreciate that. Well, that's what I wanted, right? The name was Fresh and Buds. I wasn't even going by Tommy Fresh at that point. I was just this rhymes, it's I'm so smart. But and then I kind of adopted the moniker, and but the Buds part was important to me, because I felt so alone and not having fun with friends anymore in the last game I played, Magic. And and I got into Flesh and Blood. I don't think I can convince my current friends to do it, right? It was 2021, and they were already out of card games anyway, so I'm not gonna reel them back in. I want to create friends in this game, and that's the cool thing. I think I mentioned it when you were on, Kiki, that I don't have a co-host, right? So I don't like have that kind of like really great rapport that you all have, right? It's like I have to have that rapport with people every week, but they're my friends, they're my buds. Like I'm having, buds on, so like let's have a good time. It's like a nice little cast of characters too. At this point, I've been almost 200 episodes. Yeah, it's a lot of buds, and they keep piling up. We're gonna get more. I'm greedy, but yeah, that's that's where I'm at with it.
You just gotta get everyone that plays Flesh and Blood on your podcast over the course of time, eventually. Right? Like, not all at once. That'll be a really messy podcast if you had some number of hundreds of thousands of people, or however many, I don't actually know how many people play. On one episode, it would probably be quite a laggy episode if I had to guess.
Well, actually, if we could get all of them in one room and, get them to just be able to say yes and no all in unison, I can ask a bunch of yes and no questions. Do you like Flesh and Blood? Yes. Nice. Okay, next question. And we do that for an hour, and then we can really clear everybody, I think.
Do that at Worlds this year. We should just like put it into the schedule of Worlds, and you can get on the stage with a mic and like just film the whole audience. Yeah.
Well, yeah, not even like tell LSS or anything.
Yeah,
like,
no.
I've looked. That stage is empty for a lot of the weekend. So
it is. It is, yeah.
Now, of course, it is trading card game players, so I don't know if you're going to get everyone to agree on the same thing. Like, you have to be real specific so that they get the same answer. Like, for example, like, is this hat... Or even now, it's like, is this hat white? And somebody's like, no, actually, it's kind of like a cream off-white kind of situation.
That's a really good point.
Like, there's going to be someone. It's going to be hard to get that sort of unison going.
Like, is a 0 for 4 with go again and blocks for 3 good? Someone's going to say no. Yeah.
Maybe if you had like a teleprompter of the crowd's response.
Actually, Elaine, you could do that. You hold like the cue cards.
Yeah, I will definitely do that. Yeah, they'll just flip. It'll be this is great. Worlds, if you're coming to Worlds, we're filming a podcast with everyone in attendance.
And if you want to sponsor my flight there, just no, I'm kidding.
Okay, we've been talking a lot about podcasting, and for good reason. It deserves this moment. But other than podcasting, what do you think makes effective FAB, Flesh and Blood content? I don't know why I felt the need to specify what FAB stood for.
Just in case our listeners don't know what FAB stands for. It's for Flesh and Blood, which coincidentally also rhymes with Fresh and Buds.
Fresh and Buds.
True. Well, I appreciate you for dumbing it down for me, Elaine. I needed it. I think what makes effective Flesh and Blood, the easy answer is gameplay, right? People love gameplay and deck techs and stuff like that. And I think just like, I think more evergreen content is probably better. Some of the gameplay and the deck techs are, like a flash in the pan, right? The meta will be different in 2 months, and the Aurora deck won't even look like that, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But evergreen content like Dead Summer Art, great lore content is so important, and also just like basic like 101 stuff, to teach people how to play the game. And I guess at this point, you could just do gameplay of Welcome to Raid Heroes, because I don't think they're ever going to LL or change much. So I guess that's kind of evergreen. But I think like finding a niche of evergreen content for people to like, when they discover this amazing game and they look at the content, that's going to jump out to them, I think. Which is really cool, and it's really effective, right? Because if I just started the game yesterday and I looked up like some content and whatever, maybe it was Aurora versus Florian or something like that, and I'm like, oh wow, this is like really cool. And then maybe the Aurora deck came out the next day, and the whole Aurora thing is like totally like different. It's not a bad thing. That's like really good, daily content, but like for somebody just discovering the game, like finding, I always think of Kale's videos, right? Finding Kale's videos is like the best. You're like, okay, at least I'm gonna I might not learn everything about how to play the game. I'm gonna learn about this world, and this world's not gonna change. So like it's gonna be very helpful. So
Yeah.
Well, following that, do you have any ideas for content creation for yourself outside of podcasting that you've wanted to film, or maybe even sneakily are filming or producing? Doesn't even have to be a video.
So I'll do gameplay every once in a while, and I like doing gameplay because I'll just talk to myself, and like it's like the spiral into madness. If you watch any of my gameplay videos, it's like you get a real good look at what's going on inside of this noggin, and it's not pretty. But I don't think it's not like a secret, but like anytime I've gotten a spoiler card, I always try to do something a little cinematic. I just really like that, and it's very fun to me, and I want to, like, obviously if I get another spoiler card, I would love to do that again, but like, to try to find a way to do more sketches or even just like videos of like whatever. I think that's very fun. I've always like been really into that, so I think that kind of stuff. But the gameplay stuff, and I've done like a few live streams too when I like will get ready for a tournament, and I like interacting with people in chat and stuff like that. That's all fun stuff to me, but I don't think it'll catch me being like this is the best way to do things. Anytime I do a deck tech, it's like, I put these in because I like them, or they seem pretty good. I don't know. Yeah, so I'm not really good at explaining why things are good. I'm just like, these are good. Trust me. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. But I will do anything. I'm like a dancing monkey. If you tell me to do something, I will put it on the internet. So don't get any ideas.
There should probably be a caveat.
Yeah, there's a few
like
caveats.
anything to an extent.
Few things.
I don't know.
Maybe not.
I don't know.
I really like attention.
Okay, we try and do like a special segment specific to our guest every single episode after the discussion, and you are a noted lover of food like myself. We are taste buds rather than fresh buds together. So we've kind of decided to put you in the hot seat and do a like 10 item this or that little food thing. So I'm just gonna like rapid fire these, and you gotta give us the answers. Okay, so the first one: pancakes or waffles?
Waffles.
Okay, wow.
Do I have to give an
I'm also,
explanation?
if you want to. I'm also a waffle person, but yeah.
I like the structural integrity of waffles, and I think that they hold the accoutrements a little bit better. And sometimes like pancakes could just get, they're like a hot mess sometimes. It's still good. I don't really go for the sweet breakfast as much, but like if I had to pick, waffles.
We're soulmates. Okay. Burgers or tacos?
Geez. I've already taken a stance with this with like my friends, because I love this comparison, burgers or tacos. And because, so here's the thing. The lows of a burger will never be as low as a bad taco. However, the highs of a taco will always be higher than a good burger. So I gotta go with the tacos, because if I'm going with the best of the best, a good taco, and there's just like so much customization. Oh yeah, that's what I'm going with.
All right. Salsa or guacamole?
Ooh. I gotta go guac here. It's like guac is. I mean, I love salsa. It's don't need to. What is this? We don't need to put two bad bitches against each other. But guacamole is the the superior condiment there.
It's the baddest
Yeah,
bitch.
it's the baddest bitch. So, yeah. So guac, gotta go guac.
All right. Okay. Respect. French fries are onion rings.
Ooh.
I mean, I'm gonna come off as such a contrarian in this, like, but like, I think it's onion rings. Like, I love French fries, but onion rings, like, it's like a treat. Like, you don't flip out and having, like, if you get an order of onion rings and you get one French fry in there, you're like, whatever. You get French fries and there's one onion ring in there, like, what? This is the best day of my life. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
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 So it's
Okay.
very similar to your burger taco comparison thing, right? Where like the French fries are the safe pick, and bad onion rings, read cold onion rings, awful. But like a hot, fresh, crispy
Oh
one,
yeah.
right?
Exactly.
there.
You know, we're not trying to be safe here in this segment. We want the best of the best.
This one might be a little bit for myself. Pickles or cucumbers?
Oh, well, I mean, it's like I don't even know like a good comparison, but like it's gotta be pickles. I mean,
Yeah.
you know I love pickles, and obviously I know you love pickles. What's your thoughts on pickles, Kiki?
I also love pickles.
Look at
Arguably not to the same extent. I don't know. Well, not to the same extent. Well, I will buy a whole pickle, large pickle, and eat that by itself.
Oh,
But I do love pickles.
I love buying a whole large pickle. If that's for
I mean, it
sale,
sounds delicious.
I'm getting it. Yeah.
It sounds delicious. I just like to have a few more things in my mouth at the same time as a pickle.
I went to like one of those haunted like house trail things through the woods one time, and I was really freaking out while I was like in the waiting zone. And then I noticed that at the concession stand they had pickles, like big large pickles that you could buy. And I was like, I had to go up there and I was like, when I go through this thing, is it gonna lead me back here to this area? And they were like, yeah. And like the whole haunted house, I was like, I get a pickle after this, I get a pickle after this.
Now, if the answer was no, would you be running through this haunted house with a pickle in your hand? Ah!
Yes, yeah, I would have been like, okay, I guess I need two, like one for the road and one for after to calm the anxieties. Like, all right, cake or ice cream?
I am an ice cream fanatic. I love ice cream. For every year for my birthday, it's ice cream cake. My godmother makes her own ice cream cake for me. It's I mean, like it's not like she's making the ice cream from scratch, but it's like, you know, layers of ice cream sandwiches, and then like ice cream on top of that, and then like another layer, and like a Cool Whip on top or something like that.
That sounds really good.
Yeah,
Okay, this one's not really like a food meal technically, but mustard or mayo?
Ooh, this one's so situational. Okay. I love mayonnaise, but there has been too much mayonnaise on things that I've gotten, where I think like nobody's ever overdoing it with the mustard. They're like, this is a nice little addition to what you're eating. Now, I will say, I prefer spicy brown over like the yellow mustard. That's pretty commonplace here in the States. I don't know if it is around the world, but spicy brown, like a deli mustard, oh, it's so good.
Is that the one with like the seeds in it and stuff?
Yeah, or sometimes it's like, it can be a little bit ground up, but not as ground up as like the straight yellow mustard.
Yeah, I like when it almost
Right,
tastes
okay.
like horseradish, like
Oh, yeah.
yum. Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I've definitely had too much mustard on a thing, but not when it's just like the plain yellow American mustard or anything. But if it's the one where you just see like entire mustard seeds throughout the entire thing, I've definitely overestimated how much mustard I want.
Yeah, I could see it can be very, very overpowering. I will also say, you know, this is gonna be weird. This is, you know, listen, you both bring out, you know, a vulnerable side of me. But I have this new job. It's in the office, and I'm not used to that. But you know, I have this rebellious side. I'm like, I'm gonna get back at the corporate life. So I go to the cafeteria. I don't even buy anything. I just heat up my food and eat it there. But I take the free packets of mustard, and of the hot Cholula sauce, and my desk is just filled with them. I'm just stockpiling them. Every once in a while, if I'm like, I don't know, need a little pick me up, I'll crack a little golden spicy brown pack in this. And you know, I'm not proud of this, but it is.
Fine if I said I haven't done that, so it's okay.
You haven't done that?
It's okay. Yeah, I've done that. I've definitely done that. And I do that, like, also when I go to Taco Bell, I take extra Taco Bell packets and
The Diablo.
I do that.
Taco Bell. Is that the best one? I think Fire's good, but Diablo, when they came out with that was a game changer.
Diablo's good,
We're
yeah.
off the rails. It's all good.
Okay, next one. Sushi or pasta?
Jeez. I love sushi. I think I have to go sushi, although, like, you know, pasta's just so commonplace and good, but like sushi at its best. This is another back to what Kiki said. I mean, pasta's a safe bet.
That's what you said.
Well, you know, you reminded me. I want to give everybody credit. Thank you. But yeah, pasta is a safe bet, and there's a lot of different kinds of good pasta. But gee whiz, is sushi not amazing when it's at its best? It is so good. Now, I have had terrible sushi, and that is that would be enough for me to bring me over to the pasta side, but I'm just remembering the best I've had.
Yeah, good sushi is like truly a work of art, and like pasta, like cheese and hot carbs is delicious in any form. One of those is pasta. Beer or wine?
Oh, well, I sold beer for 7 years. And actually even longer than that if you count the retail side. But, yeah, I mean, I can tell you a good beer from a bad beer pretty easily. And I think I can with wine, too. Would it be bad
if you had to drink one right now, what would it be?
Right now? I was drinking a Paloma while we were talking. That was delicious because it was pink.
At a Hoegaarden.
A little bit of... I gotta go with beer. I think the replayability of beer... I'm such a gamer. The replayability of beer is just a little bit higher than wine. I appreciate... Now, wine is more of a cultural experience, I feel like, when you're just sitting at like a nice good meal. There's a couple bottle of wines open, people are relaxing, talking. I think that's great. But like sometimes long day of work or outside in the heat, and you come inside, you're like, crack a beer, you're good to go, you feel invigorated, and yeah, and good carbs in there. I think, you know, some people would disagree, but I think those carbs are good.
Yeah. Okay. Last one, and I hate to do it to you, but blue cheese or a dirty martini?
Oh. All these are like the same category, and then this one's like, oh, this is actually the true do not put two bad bitches against each other. Like, this is like, oh man. This is like, I'll just take the gun or whatever, you know, like kind of. You know, I gotta say blue cheese. I love blue cheese in all forms, and I do love a dirty martini. I really do. But I feel like if I pick that over blue cheese, it's like, okay, Tommy's an alcoholic, which could be true. But I do love cheese more, a cheeseaholic, if you will. So blue cheese.
Yeah. Well, that was the last one. You didn't know this was a test, but you did score 100%. There were wrong answers, and you got them all correct.
Based on Elaine's reactions, I was like a 20%er. Like, I was so far off base for a lot of them.
No, this is why Tommy and I are taste buds, though. Yeah, like,
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
yeah, we have the same palate, the exact same palate.
I send Elaine recipes all the time. I sent you one earlier this week.
And I made it, and it was delicious.
Oh, man.
All right, yeah, Tommy and I, if you go ever look at our text history, it's just us sending recipes back and forth, and we're like, "Oh, that looks so good! Like, let me know if you ever make it." Like, like, yeah, you too.
Yeah. It's I love food. So that was a good game.
That's good.
I like that because I love pontificating about stuff like that. Like, I'll just argue anybody about anything. I'm like, I do, you have some good points about the burgers, but the tacos, just
Yeah.
It's a fun time.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you
Those are some
enjoyed
great
it.
answers.
Yeah. Says the 20%er.
No, I'm also realistic. I'm a vegan, but I also understand that not everyone's vegan. So, like, I already have this idea that people like different things, and that's okay. You're allowed to like different things. That's
Different
fine.
strokes for different folks.
So, that's okay.
love it.
And I just really love bread, so I would go for burger over taco because it has bread.
That's fair.
But that's just my kind of thinking. I also love corn chips more than, like, any other chip, which would make you think taco would win. But I also like to eat corn chips just by themselves.
Yeah.
I like to eat corn chips by themselves too. They're like when they're just salted, the perfect amount, and like nice and fresh and
Exactly.
crispy. That's so good.
I crave like the basic Fritos, like the corn little shit, like all the time. Yeah, there's something about it. And I tell myself, because when I look at the ingredients list and there's only 3 ingredients, like corn, like sunflower oil, and salt, I'm like, this is healthy. This is the healthiest thing I've ever eaten. This is clean.
No GMOs, baby. There could
Yeah,
be.
most
Who knows? Yeah. Not a bad thing. Not a food podcast, though, unfortunately. We do have some questions from our listeners. Yeah. Wow. Sorry, I just zoned out. We do have some listener questions, so maybe it's time we get onto those. Our first couple being from Capolo, who reached out on both Bluesky and Discord. So Capolo first asks, my question is about deck building. If you have some sort of formula for the ratios, or if it's gut feeling in the ratios of costs versus pitches.
So, first of all, Capolo, double dipper. Okay, asking 2 questions. How dare you? I love Capolo. Capolo.
Different sources, though. Different sources.
Yeah.
Discord and
Exactly.
Bluesky.
Capolo is the most loyal question asker of any podcast listener, I would say. Now, this is a question that I gotta think back about. This is a meme question, because this was a question I believe Capolo asked for a guest a long time ago, when I was still in double digits probably, and I didn't have time to ask it or something like that, or we ran out of time, so I wasn't able to ask it. And he was like, oh, why didn't you ask that? I'm like, I ran out of time, so like everybody would just ask that now. So it's like everybody in the Buds Discord is like, well, my question is about deck building. I'm like, I have to hear it every single time. But I always like to answer it seriously, or sometimes I'll just say no comment. But now, my answer is about deck building. And I don't really have a formula. I just know you want some blues usually, and if you got high cost, you probably want a lot of blues. If you got low cost, so it is a gut feeling, I would say. Actually, Capolo. Now that I think about it, it's very much a gut feeling.
There you have it, the real answer. Capolo's next question is, which symbol in Fab, Flesh and Blood, is Tommy's favorite and least favorite, and why?
Oh man, this is actually tough. I don't know if I really hate any of the symbols in Flesh and Blood. They're all pretty good, right? Like, I think the life symbol, because I'm thinking life symbol and intellect, attack, defense is the Mount Rushmore of Flesh and Blood symbols, I would say.
Bold to leave resources.
Oh,
like that.
resources! Wow,
Resources.
maybe that's the least favorite. I don't know. Those look cool too. Are there any ones that I'm forgetting?
the chi resource?
Yeah, like
Resource but blue?
The chi resource it looks cool, but I hate what it represents. So I'm gonna have to say the chi resource because I've seen Zen shuffle the deck way too many times for me to like that resource. So yeah, chi resource. Thank you, Kiki. That was helpful.
do you have a favorite?
Oh, defense. The defense symbol. I'm playing a lot of
Solid.
traps, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next question comes from Bryce Platts at bryceplatts.bsky.social. Do you have any people or shows that have inspired the way you conduct interviews?
First of all, Bryce is awesome. Check out everything the AGE does. They do a lot of good stuff for the game. Good episode of the podcast too. This is a good question. I don't know if there's anybody that's I look at and I'm like, I'm inspired by this, but when especially now that I do it all the time, like once a week, I will go and watch like interviews of other interviewers. I've always there was a recent, I think GQ or something like that, for whatever reason, posted a video of like an interview of David Letterman, who, clearly legend. And there's something about David Letterman that I really love. I think it's probably the kind of, it didn't feel flashy, didn't feel like was above anybody. It was kind of like, I'm actually in the seat to represent all of you watching, not here to like placate to these celebrities as much, which I kind of like. Not that I'm trying to like, dunk on anybody when they're on my podcast, but I like being relatable to the common person. I think that is what I took from David Letterman, which I think he did the best out of anybody. So I would have to say Letterman.
Yeah. I knew you would have a good answer for that one. Next question comes from Wolf Shadowmancer at wolfshadowmancer.bsky.social. What is the best non-alcoholic beer on the market? I don't drink, but I want a taste test.
This is an interesting one. I am, as somebody who sold beer, I was like kind of like staunchly against non-alcoholic beer because not because, I think sobriety is awesome and I, applaud anybody who, goes for it. But beer, part of the best things about beer is kind of the weight it brings with the alcohol. Not like the weight, but like kind of like the substance. It feels like it feels like something. Like it feels like sustenance in a way that will get you drunk, I guess. But I will say, I know Athletic Brewing is very popular. It's probably the best selling non-alcoholic beer, and I've had some of them. And they definitely taste as close to the real thing. But I've always been someone that's like, well, if I don't want to drink if I don't want to drink alcohol, I'm going to grab like a Coke Zero, like something that I like the taste of. Not that I don't like the taste of beer, but, I think there's just a little bit missing out on non-alcoholic beer. But if that's your best option, like if you feel like you want to, and I know Wolf Shadowmancer isn't like looking for a replacement, just wants to taste test, I would say Athletic is probably where I would go.
Oh. Wolf Shadowmancer also had a few other questions. First one, what are your thoughts on Crown coming back to Blitz?
Well, as a not much of a Blitz player, and a player who was like playing a lot during the height of Crown, I think it's fine for Blitz, maybe. I think I've been hearing some things, maybe it's not. But I understand it's the name of the format, but I didn't like how fast it was. So maybe if it slows down, I don't really care as much. So I always thought Crown was such a cool card, and I just wish it wasn't so abusable. I love Trench, right? And that just feels like so fun, and that kind of like manipulating your arsenal in a way. Crown was pushed a little bit too much, but so was all of Tales of Aria. So what are you gonna do? But yeah, I think it's fine. Like, that's the cool thing about Blitz. You can just like test things out. Like, what happens if we do this? You know, here's Drone of Brutality. You know, like, have fun. Oh, maybe that was a mistake. You know, stuff like that. So, I hope it's not game breaking though. I think people will figure it out. I hope.
Last question from. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna do the same thing you were.
Oh, go ahead. You take it away.
Well, continuing on the idea of the format, or just the game in general, and kind of playing things around with things, if you could design a new class currently missing from Flesh and Blood, what would you pick? What would it do?
Oh man. So I don't know if you answered this on the podcast, Kiki. Like mentioned Druid. Yes.
Yeah.
I love that answer. You know, anytime I play D&D, I want to be a Druid. I kind of like that. You know, and you also made a great point on the pod that I could just be illusionist with a different kind of skin. But like, I have faith in LSS that they can make it feel different. You know, and I think that, I mean, let's put on our thinking caps for a second. What if the Druid, you know, the hero ability is or something to do with your actual weapon. Like, the weapon is going to actually turn into something different based on how you attack or what you pitch to attack. Like, if you pitch a red to attack with this, oh my god. You pitch a red it has an X cost to attack. You pitch a red, it's a 2/2, or not 2/2. This is not magic. It's a 2 attack, like wolf weapon attack. If you pitch a yellow, it's a 3 attack, bear weapon attack. I mean, this is like the baseline. If you pitch a blue, it's like an orca or something like that. That, you know, that would be really, really neat. So yeah, druids are so cool. I want to see something like that, or even just like a dryad of sorts, like a tree creature. I just got asked to do a reading at a wedding of my friends, and it's a excerpt from Lord of the Rings, a quote from Treebeard, which I'm so excited about. Like, I get to be a tree for like 10 seconds while I read this. Very cool. So something like that.
Very cool. Very cool. I like that answer. That's fun design. Next question comes from Greg Darth Prentice from our Discord. Tommy, any updates on the cosplay that you've been cooking up?
Battle Hardened Hartford, folks. I hope it's gonna be there. It is. So for those of you who don't know, when I hit 500 subscribers, I'm gonna do a Levi cosplay, and then I moved, and then I really realized cosplaying's hard. It's hard to do it, and I was gonna do Levi, which is not an easy one. This is like, it's probably one of the harder ones. So I will say, I'm gonna give a hint to the folks out there. Is anybody familiar with the musical artist Orville Peck?
Yes, I love Orville Peck. He's coming to Broadway. You should come. We can go together.
Let's go. I love Orville Peck as well. Now, imagine if Orville Peck was Leviah. Just, I'm going to put that out there. I think I'm going to try to do some kind of... This is you don't see the vision. I can see. Don't worry about it. It's happening here. It's happening here.
It's up to you to bring it to life.
I got to bring it to life. I will say, I'm not that good at actually creating the stuff, so if I were to compete, it would not be, I think, eligible to like win anything, but I think I'm gonna like try to make it look as good as possible, and I will be purple. So
good. Imagine if you were any other color. That wouldn't be right.
We could have a cosplay day. I can help you. Some basics. Yeah.
That'd be great.
We could do that.
It's the tentacles are actually the hardest thing, right? And,
yeah.
You know, I've talked.
I think there's a few ways you could do tentacles.
Yeah. Help. But I have a little bit of time. I have a little bit of time.
Battleheart in Hartford's not that. It's kind of close.
It's in May.
It's in
And I'm traveling for most of April. Who cares?
We're halfway through March.
Okay, whatever. I have a plan. I'm doing it like I did all my schoolwork ever, last minute, and getting a C, which is passing.
Okay.
Gets degrees.
Yeah, exactly. So
Fair enough.
It will be cool. I hope. No, it will. I actually
It will
have to
be.
have confidence in myself. It's gonna be awesome.
It's called manifesting. You're manifesting it.
Okay.
We're manifesting success, you know? So down to our last questioner. Yes, questioner. BIOS update at biosupdate.bsky.social. 2 questions. Again with these double dips. 2 questions. Firstly, what is your favorite fab ad read that you've done on the podcast?
Oh man. Well, for those of you who don't know, if you don't listen to the pod, at the beginning of not every pod, but like I started doing it a while ago, where I'll do like a fake ad or like a joke or something like that, and it's usually all just like improv, right? I'll just look at a card and I'll just be like, oh, this sounds silly. So I had this one. I don't think it. So my favorite is probably going to be not other people's favorite, because it's a little too absurd. I love like absurd stuff. I was looking at Codex of Inertia, right? I love that card. It's really cool. One day it's gonna be good. I don't know when, but I was looking at it and I was like, inertia, Himmertia. And I was like, that's weird. And then I was like, Brodex. So I was like, in my mind, I created this like, you know, like these books, like these Andrew Tate books or whatever that people read, is like these super, like these super
Like
toxic,
the alpha male,
alpha male, toxic masculinity. It's like, read the Brodex of Immersia or whatever. I thought in my mind, I was like, this is gold. This is gold. And I got a shout out to William from the Table Pit, who did do the a like actual logo for it on a live stream once. So I'll have to grab that. It's just like this. It's like it's
Brodex.
Yeah. I just was like, that one was for me. So that's
That sounds beautiful.
Thank
Yeah.
you, thank you.
Yeah. All right.
You need to go find that one.
Last question, and an appropriate question to close out the pod. What kind of food are you in the mood for right now?
Ooh, I saw this question come across, and I've been thinking about this one recipe. TikTok, maybe it was an Instagram reel, whatever. They're all the same, kind of. But it was a super rustic, like French meal, which is like not what I'm into really, but it was like a charred cabbage with a sausage on the side, but they made like a mustard gravy, and they just like made a gravy and just, we were talking about mustard before, and just like threw in a dollop of like that really full seeded like French mustard right in there. And I was like, there's something about that, like that just feels like it would hit right now. It's starting to be spring here in the States. Just like I love cabbage. Cabbage is like, I don't know. Cabbage is the ultimate like thing, I think. Like for like food, if you want to like save money, you buy a head of cabbage for like maybe $3 or whatever, and it's like, oh, this will feed me vegetable wise for the week. I do need to get the protein in there or whatever. If I'm gonna, I've been reading the Brodex commercial, obviously. So. Yeah, so I don't even know if it was just that, but like definitely I want to try to make that mustard gravy. It just sounded so good.
That sounds
It
delicious.
sounds really good. Yeah.
Oh, can I say something else? Am I allowed?
Yeah. To raise your hand. Yeah.
I just on the topic of mustard. So we went to it's the Mustard Podcast.
Sponsored by Kendra.
Yeah. Oh, DJ Must on the beat. Oh my god. So, in Cambridge, Massachusetts, famous for like Harvard and stuff, I guess. I don't know. MIT is maybe there. I don't remember. But I was just visiting, and they had a little bagel shop, right? And I'm from New Jersey, so I'm like, there's no way these bagels are good, you know. But I went, and they were, and it was called Bagelsaurus, I should say. Shout out Bagelsaurus, doing a great job, keep killing it. They would have their regular bagel stuff, and then they would have their like kind of like signature breakfast sandwiches. And it was like, it might have been like a sausage, egg, and cheese or whatever, but it was the accoutrement, the sauce was a mustard butter. And I was like, I gotta try this. Had like arugula on it, and oh my god, it was so good.
I love arugula.
I've been thinking about that sandwich for 3 years. I gotta go back, but anyway, that's it. I'm done. I swear. But wait, no.
Now I'm hungry. I just ate dinner before this, and I'm like, ooh, what do I have in my pantry? Yeah, no.
I just ate breakfast, so same. Literally same boat. I am hungry again now. Maybe that's a sign that we should head off and eat. Is that what's happening here?
Yeah.
Perhaps.
You're like the master of segues. You're so good at segues.
Well, yeah, I guess that is the end of the show. Thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure. It was a joy. There were so many laughs. Loved it. My stomach is angry at you right now because it wants more food. But no, it was great. You already did one shout out, Bagelsaurus. But is there anybody else you want to shout out before we wrap this up?
Just the buds. I think just like I want to shout out like people with good vibes. I think like it's like I don't know, it's like just good vibes. No, I love when like you just feel the community. So like not really anybody in particular, although there's so many people that I just think are so incredible and wonderful. You two included in that. But I think like if you just the next time try to be conscious of talking to somebody and then just feel it. You can feel the good stuff and just like, okay, this is my people. Just like it sometimes can be hard in this day and age to be like interaction, but sometimes it's good. I think being friends with people is awesome. So I don't think I'm breaking any new ground here, but I came on. I was really controversial. Being friends with people, amazing. Try it out. So you can feel the vibes if you really try. So that's who I want to shout out. All the good people.
Shout out to the
Shout out
vibes.
vibes.
Yeah.
To the vibes.
Shout out to the vibes.
Elaine and I actually had a cue card that said shout out to the vibes. just
Oh man.
All right.
okay,
Well,
so
please go.
I'm sorry.
Please.
With that being said, oh, this was messy. With that being said, how can we find you? Your upcoming projects, your socials, anything Flesh and Blood related, or anything not Flesh and Blood related if you really want. How do we find the most of Tommy Fresh to inject our lives with?
Yeah, you can find me on Bluesky at freshbudspod. Whatever the rest of it is. That I guess I still have X, the Everything app, but I don't have it on my phone anymore, which is like, whew, feels good. So Blue Sky's the best right now. But the true best way to find anything that I do is on the YouTube or Spotify or anything like that. It's where the podcast is. Please go check it out. Like, comment, subscribe. In the show notes and stuff like that, you'll find like the links for other stuff, like the Discord, which is a great place to hang out as well. I also have another podcast I do with my cousin, talk about indie video games, if anybody's interested in that stuff. But yeah, that is it. Thank you both for having me on. I had a blast. I love you two. This is great. I hope I get to come on again, although with the amount of mustard talk I did, I wouldn't blame you if they're like, this is the mustard guy's weird. We're not bringing him back. So, but I'm excited just in general about podcasts. So You two are really killing it. So thank you.
Thank you. And Elaine, how can we find you on your socials?
You can find me on the socials at ehamontree. Ham on tree, bacon on bush, pork on shrubbery. And that's on Bluesky. I also still have an X account technically, but I really don't use it. Mainly on Bluesky, and of course on this podcast. If you're listening, wherever you're listening, we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on all the things. So yeah, how about you, Kiki?
You can find me on Bluesky. That's at kikibird.bsky.social. So first name, flyinganimal.bsky.social. Oh, hello?
Wait, I just got a notification on Discord. Another listener question, because I posted it in my Discord too, from Kale, Dead Summer Art. So I think we
let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Well.
Oh, wait, should I read the question out?
Wait, I could jump in.
I mean, like, I could read it.
Someone read it.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
Hopefully not too late to the party. You have made it just in time, Kale. You've been a staunch supporter of minorities and queer people within the fab community, which I am very thankful for. When did you become such a chill guy?
Oh, well, yeah, thank you, Kale, for that. I don't know. I think that everybody is, well, that's the thing. I think everybody's chill, right? That's the whole point. I think that I've felt in my life on the outside, and that's not a good feeling. And I don't want people to feel that. So when I see other people, be treated that way, I want to be the one that's like, well, that's not the way it has to be. Come here. I think that is just it's something to be cognizant of. I think that lifting up programs and content like Pitch Perfect, for example, and people is just like really important because, well, first of all, this is all for the love of the game, right? And what's better than the love of the game than having more people play the game that we all love and have more people to be friends with? Because as I said before, being friends is awesome. It's like, so like, I don't know. I think that it's just important to support everybody. And well, not everybody. There's some people that don't need to be supported because they're bad, but I've always been of the mindset that like love wins, and in my albeit not that long of life, 33 years, any progress I've seen has come when love was at the forefront, I thought, so I think if that is continued to be, because love is a universal language, even people who have hate in their heart know what love is, and the hate is probably really towards themselves. So if you can just put love into the world, maybe you have a chance of changing them or changing their mind and really showing them that everybody is just good, right, inherently, and they're not different. We're all the same, really, and we all deserve to be happy and to be loved. So I think I don't know, love is here's another hot take, love's pretty sick. It's like, I think it's just like, I want to be loving, and I think that when you have a platform, that's a good way to be. So you just show other people and hopefully lead by example. But
yeah,
Kale's the best. Thank you, Dead Summer.
Yeah, Kale is the best. Randomly got real deep and serious at the end, but yeah.
Sorry. Mustard.
No, it was great. This is
well said.
Yes. I think that's everything.
Yeah.
I think we did it. Another perfect podcast in the books.
Find me on B-Sky. You can also follow the podcast on Bluesky at pitchperfectpod.bsky.social, and also keep an eye out in the upcoming months or so on the Rainbow Pitch Bluesky account. So that's at rainbowxpitch.bsky.social. So keep an eye out for all those for updates about the upcoming season 3, as well as, of course, any episodes. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for spreading the word of love and Levia and laughing.
And mustard.
And mustard. And with that, thank you for listening, and we will see you all next time.